I think we can start. Good afternoon. On behalf of the European Network Remembrance and Solidarity, I would like to welcome you all during today's webinar. My name is Urszula Bios, and I'm project coordinator for the High Story Lessons online platform. I graduated with master's degree in history from Warsaw University, but I'm also an educator. I work closely with teachers. I'm a teacher trainer. I prepare teaching resources, and I'll be the host for today's event. Which is about preparing students for a visit to the memorial site. There are my four colleagues with me today, and there will be time for them to present themselves. Just briefly, today there will be an online talk between Christine and Evelyn. Christine, she's a teacher from Munich in Germany, and Evelyn, she's an employee of the memorial site, Mauthausen Memorial. Could you just say hi?
Hello, nice to see you all, and nice. Thank you for the invitation, Ursula.
Yeah,
very glad that I can share the next moments, hours it won't be, but share this afternoon with you.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the invitation, and we hope to have a nice talk together. I think it would happen.
Yeah. Great. And in the second part of our meeting, there will be Alika Sideska and Dan Wolf, who will be speaking about the Sound in the Silence project. Could you just say hi? And I'm checking that everything works fine.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Just to let you know, our participants, that your cameras and microphones are turned off. However, I invite you to listen actively, think about your questions, comment on chat. If you've got any of them, you can write. This meeting is recorded, and the recordings will be available on our YouTube channel. However, your data are not included anywhere. So because your microphones and cameras aren't turned off. Our meeting will last 1 hour and 30 minutes, so we will finish at 5:30 p.m. After the webinar, I'll send you an email with all the links and informations mentioned during the presentations. And just to let you know that this webinar is funded by the EU, so it's open to everyone, no matter your nationality or gender. Okay. So today we've got two goals. Today we would like to discover, we would like to dig deeper into two questions. First of all, how to prepare students for a visit to the memorial site from two perspectives, representative of the memory site and the teacher. And here on the slide, you can see a photo of the memory place. You can already know it from the graphics we used for the promotion of this event. This is the memorial in Jasenovac in Croatia, which was the location of the Sound in the Silence project in 2023. And secondly, at the last 30 minutes of the meeting, you will get to know how to apply for the educational program Sound in the Silence. Just only a few words about the ENRS. We are European Network Remembrance and Solidarity. It means that we're a network of countries. There are five of them, those which are yellow on the map. So Poland, Germany, Hungary, Slovakia, and Romania. And the blue countries, those are observer countries. And the aim of our institution is to foster the dialogue about the 20th European history. We organize meetings and webinars like this one. We host symposiums and events which are dedicated for academics. We publish books and so on. Here on the slide, you can see 6 different projects we are organizing. One of them is Sound in the Silence, we will speak about today. We've got 2 traveling exhibitions, one about which is called After the Great War, and it will be soon published online, actually. So if you're interested in this part of the 20th century history, you will be able to browse through the exhibition online. And the second one is called Between Life and Death. And if there are any participants from Slovakia, the next localization for the exhibition will be in March in traveling through Slovakia. This event, today's event, is part of the webinar series, which is called High Story Lessons, Methods and Resources for History Teaching, and highstorylessons.eu. This is the address of the website, where you can find a lot of other teaching resources about 20th century history. We've got a lot of animations, infographics, short movies, or lessons plans. So I invite you to browse through the website and find there also teaching resources you can use in your work, also, or in school, or in your institution. And just briefly about our today's webinar, so preparing students for a visit to a memorial site. Why this is so important for us. Lately, we, as a team of ENRS, we visited Auschwitz-Birkenau, former Nazi concentration camp. We just went for a study visit there, and we talked a lot about how having well-prepared students is crucial part of the visit. The guides, the employees themselves, they say that you can always tell the difference between well-prepared and not prepared students, and we don't want to blame anyone here and to speak that it's the fault of the teacher who didn't prepare the students, because we know very well that sometimes there's just no space or time for preparation, and there are a lot of obstacles on the way to realize to organize the good preparation for students. And however, we just want to show what students can gain from the good preparation and what are the benefits for students from this visit if they're prepared properly. Speaking about Auschwitz, they lately at the end of the 2023, they just launched a new web application which is called Auschwitz in Front of Our Eyes. And this is an online guided tour. It's not a video, it's an online tour in real time. You just can check on it online, and you can book a trip like this. A visit, sorry, it's not a trip, it's a guided tour. And just speaking about the value of visiting memorial site, it seems to be very interesting. And they were thinking about those trips for a very long time now. They're aware of all the challenges, and however, if the distance from your place to Oświęcim, to a former concentration camp, it's not very big, still you can use this kind of an online guided tour as a preparation phase, to just show the students the place they will be visiting shortly. So our today's topic is very broad, and this time is during this very limited time, we will be able only to highlight some of the most important aspects of good preparation before visiting a memory site. However, I've just seen during registration process to this webinar that there are a lot of experts between you, a lot of memory place representatives, a lot of teachers who are the best experts for how to prepare the students. So if you've got any questions, any good practices you already tested in your work, just feel free to share, to write what's working for you, what could work, or maybe there are stuff you already tested with your students, or your audiences in your memorial site. And just showing you, this is the slide from one of the presentations you can find on our High Story Lessons platform. It's about the Holodomor, so the Great Famine in Ukraine, 1932-1933. And here in this presentation, we wanted to show 10 different memory sites related to the Holodomor, you know, in this graphic form, to have a photo, a map, and the questions, or like to have all the information, what this exact monument is about. And yeah, this is one of the tools through which students can discover memory sites, because we believe that by discovering memory sites, they can just, you know, they just can be active in the memory, in the public memory sphere. Okay, so I'll just stop screen sharing, and I'll just come back to our speakers. So maybe, yeah, I just have the first one, the most general question. So from your practice, how the preparation phase looks like before the visit? Yeah, maybe I'll start with Christine.
Yes. Okay, so usually I do these visits during my history, or in connection with my history lessons. So students already got some information about the rise of National Socialism, and then we go to the concentration camp to Dachau. That's our usual site because we are here in Munich and it's not so far away. So I begin with talking to them that we go there and that we will see the site, and I write a letter to the parents that they are also prepared, and that they know that their kids will go there, and that they know that perhaps they are very affected by the visit of the site. So, and then we have two options. I can book a guided tour. Sometimes it's nice. It depends on the group, and sometimes I do it on my own. And then for me, if I do it on my own, I have to revise all these informations about the concentration camp, because I don't have them in detail in my head. And that's what we do. And we take one day to go there. So we tried, sometimes we tried it to do a half-day tour, but that's not good, because afterwards it's difficult for them to come back to school and to go to lessons. So I would suggest for everyone to do it in one day, to have one day there. And then we go there, and yes, we are at the site. So now it depends, and we are registered. I think Evelyn, she also told me that they like if the school classes register before, or tell them that they will arrive. And that's the beginning of the visit. Yes, that's what we do. So usually, perhaps, Evelyn, what do you think? Is there anything we should add?
Yeah, Christine, just could you tell about the letter? What's inside the letter to the parents?
So there are the organizational informations at first. So when will we go there? What will happen there? And then we also write a sentence that they should be aware that their children might come home, and that there might be questions afterwards, so that they are not, or that they are overwhelmed by what they saw. And that might be difficult, and there might be questions in the evening when they come home, and that parents should be aware that this could happen.
No.
Yes, that's what we write down. And then there is always a kind of a slip that they, that they know that the students are going there, and everything. So it's more for security reasons, that they know what will go on during this day. That's what we write down.
Evelyn, how it looks on your end?
Well, I think the letter is fantastic, that the parents and the families, the guardians, private guardians of the students know what could come up, and that they can prepare themselves also for the days afterwards, because there's not only the preparation, but also, of course, the aftermath when they come back. And I think to give space, and also what you said, Christine, that you have understood that doing right after the visit some teaching and going back to school, that doesn't work. I think that's fantastic, just to give space, because in my knowledge, it needs a lot of space afterwards because they see so much and they have to take in so much, and it's difficult also to say, okay, I'm more interested in this and I want to see more of that, and this is they get overwhelmed so easily. And then to have space afterwards just to digest what they saw, I think this is really, really, really crucial. And also that they know that they can talk about it. That's something that I always stress in the end, that I know many teachers do this, but I also stress this towards the students, to tell them, if find yourself space to talk about it, maybe also with the co-students, if that's easier than with the parents or the teachers, if you feel like, I have awkward questions and I don't dare to ask them. So talk with each other and just find ways of digesting what you saw, and then you can, that it's not, that it doesn't stuck with you in some way. So I think this is fantastic that you do this already, and that you do also this letter. I think that is really, really important. So they are not left by them on their own with the experience of visiting. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for us, it is very important that groups at schools, that they tell us that they come, because otherwise we have just I mean, even if there are groups saying, okay, they do the tour, they visit by themselves, they don't want any guides, no members of our education program to work with them, we still need to know that, because otherwise there are so many people coming, right? And so it's sometimes it gets really packed when people want to go into the same spots, and when we don't have good weather, and everybody wants to be then right at the same time in the museum or here or there. So it's good for us at the memorial to know when people come and when people tend to come, even though they don't want any guides or just me or others working for the educational department. So that is really, would be really helpful. And in Austria, we have a project from the Ministry for Education that the tour, the buses and everything going to the Memorial of Mauthausen gets funded better now. And so because it's not, there's no train going by, or so it's on a hillside. So to get up there can be quite crucial. And so to know when people come, just that we are also at the disposal for questions, and that we can assist in any way. And if we don't do the tours, the guiding by ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I think is also important is to talk to the students before how to behave there if we are in the site. So what about taking photos, taking selfies, for example? What about eating, drinking, having breaks? So it's easier if we clear this before the visit. And if I do it in the classroom, it's even easier for me. But even when I'm just standing outside the site, we can talk on this. But it's easier, I think.
Yeah. I would like to come back to the rules actually soon. And for our participants, if you've got already some rules you said before the visit, you can write them on chat. Evelyn, do you want me to share screen now, the website?
Well,
not yet. Sorry.
Maybe a bit later.
No, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, maybe a bit later. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the rules, I mean, we do have some rules, right? And we don't say, don't take selfies. We do ask to be aware of the place they visit. And the one rule I think that is really important is also to be aware that if you take photographs, that you take, be sure only to have people from your own group on the photographs, because other visitors might not like to be photographed. And so in order to prevent any discussions afterwards, once you posted it, this would be a rule that I always ask for to be followed. And we do, since you mentioned the eating and drinking, I mean, we also have this question, of course, and we recently started with a preparation film, a short film, only in German for Austrian schools. And this is something where students also ask themselves, is it okay to eat and to drink? And we have this 2-hour, if I talk about the regular tour we offer without any workshops connected, it's 2 hours on the site. And if the weather is like, it's too hot, so of course people need to drink. Yeah, we don't want people to collapse. And so it's better they have some chocolate, or some cookies and enough sugar in their blood so they can walk on. And also to be capable of getting everything in, because when you're hungry and thirsty, how can you, or when you're too cold, yeah, that's also something. So I think that is also crucial, not only when to eat and when to drink, but also to be properly dressed, because when you're freezing cold and the weather is just not good, and on that hillside we often have really not good weather, and so if you come right dressed, then it's easier for you to take part, of course. And this is also, of course, with the drinking and the eating. Yeah, so just sure. And it's like everybody's, you know, well fed before we start, then we can walk on to be able to take part. I think that is really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to, Christine, you said that you prefer winter.
Yes,
over summer.
usually, yes, we prefer winter to summer, because sometimes in summertime there are so many groups, like Evelyn already told us, so many groups, and sometimes it has it seems to be more a summer trip. So I prefer to go there in autumn, winter, or spring. So when the weather's not that nice, they should be properly dressed, yes, so that they have no cold. But it's easier perhaps to have a feeling of what happened there. If we stand at the Appellplatz, for example, in Dachau. If there is a wind or it is cold, it's easier than when it's nice summer weather with high temperatures, and they are more like being in holidays.
Yeah, so they killed also in summer. I mean, people got killed in summer too.
Yes, that's not a good question of having been killed there, but sometimes for students or for some students, not for all of them. And it's not that we don't go to Dachau in summer. Yes, we go there, but I prefer to be there in some times when it's not that crowded, and when the weather is perhaps not like going to the lake or something. Yes, that's my personal prefer
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evelyn, is it are teachers before the visit, are they contacting you actually, asking questions how to prepare students, or they're just doing rather it on their own?
Well, they do with the booking department.
Yeah.
I'm not working because I'm working on site with students and with other with groups, well, different kind of groups. And I also work in other projects, but not on the booking. And they do ask, of course. And sometimes what I know is that they said, okay, how's the weather? No plan, any idea? Guess, of course, teachers who return and see every year the memorial with different school classes, they know that we can have stormy weather on the hillside, so they ask, so they do prepare, but of course the teachers cannot force the students to wear that rubber boots, just to be sure, when there's heavy rain. So of course this is something that depends also, of course, on the students. But yeah, they do, but not like generally, that's like everybody asks. Yeah, so it really depends on the school and on the teachers, of course. Yeah, but I think it makes it easier once you know how the situation is. And like Christine said, she prefers the colder weather because she knows how it is then. So and just not too busy, not too many groups. So once you know what time you prefer, I think it's good to come back at that time of year, and just to make sure, that you don't have to invent the wheel every year. And okay, now we do it differently. Why, once, if it works, why change? Yeah, and if the students respond accordingly and can work with it too, I think that's really good then. Yeah.
Could you, Evelyn, could you just tell what's like the usual how long is the usual trip, and what's the course when the visitors they're coming? Are
Mhm.
there what are the steps of the visit when they're coming to the Mauthausen Memorial? Like a group of students aged 15, 17 maybe.
Yes, well,
They're just entering the site and they are visiting the exhibition first, or they're just visiting the site itself?
well, it depends. We have different
Yeah.
kind of guided tours, and we have also tours connected with workshops. So there's one workshop that is working with the museum. We have workshops that are connected with parts of different sites on the memorial, and we have also with life stories connected with Mauthausen and Gusen. And so these are all longer stays. Then it's like 4 hours, but the regular one is 2 hours, and then we check the weather. And if the weather is bad, we often suggest that we start in the museum. And with the museum, we also have the memorial rooms, which means like where the former gas chamber was situated, and where the room of names, which is my favorite place in the memorial, is also located, which starts at the end, of course, and then we go back to the beginning where they were registered, where they in which barracks they stayed, but it depends also a bit on the weather, and also if the teachers say, oh, could we please? So if they say we would like to focus on this, and I always, and I know many of my colleagues also do this, that we say, okay, if we start like this, is this fine for you? And then the teacher said, no, and last time we started differently, could we do it again differently? So we do that, yeah. And if they had already prepared themselves on different stories, like with so-called a hare hunt in the Mühlviertel, where 500 prisoners from the Red Army tried to escape. Huge escape breakout attempt from February 45. And there's a feature film, a fantastic film done many years by an Austrian director. And if they come and said, oh, we have seen the film, could we, of course, go there? I said, yeah, of course. We go to the part where the block where they escaped or the breakout happened. Of course, we put that in. So, or if they say, oh, one of our students, I had that, we had a talk about the photographer of Mauthausen, Francisco Boix, that Spanish, or that Basque, not at Basque, it's a Catalan, a prisoner. So of course we focus on this. So if teachers say, could we look more in this and look more into that, we try, of course, put as much as possible within the 2 given hours. Of course, 2 hours is not a lot. And you have to decide what you focus on more. And if they don't have any requests in the beginning, we just do the regular way. And then, of course, the weather. And for me, it's also very important because in the beginning, if I do start in front of the former concentration camp, we meet also always in the visitor center. We have a visitor center in Mauthausen that was built in around 2000. So that is the meeting point. And from there we start. So we don't start at the site. We have a special place. There's also a cafeteria in it, and there are the offices and the workshop rooms. So this is something a different spot. This is not right on the right into the site. So I think this is really important also because this is something from today, and then you walk on and then you go there. And
it's like a transition to the
And I always like in the beginning to ask the students also whether they want to walk the path the prisoners had to take when they arrived, or whether they want to take the path the SS took. Because there are, the 2 different ways of doing a path. And then the majority says, of course, the prisoners.
Yeah.
Some say, okay, could we have a look into this and later on see the other things? And yeah, of course, I mean, it's never one without the other, but it depends. So some on the groups, and maybe some students who are like 17, 18 tend more into looking into that part where the SS arrived, or when Himmler, when he came to Mauthausen, where he was greeted, that part. So looking more into that. But this is an option I like to give and to see so they can participate. And this is something really important for us, so they can participate and they decide on the spot with us at some points, not in every, but at some points they can decide. They also can decide whether they want to have a look at the former gas chamber or not. It's something we always say, you decide, you are here and you know where your boundaries are. And if you want to have a look into, you can look into it. You cannot walk into it, but you can have a look inside. And if you feel like this is already too much that I have to cope with, don't do it. And we don't say you must because you're here and you have to, because it wouldn't make any sense to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems very interesting, and I really appreciate that. And it's already a good practice that you let them choose the way, so they're the authors in a way of the decision what they're going to see, and it's, as you said, it's not so obvious always to choose the victim's way. So it's also important to have to be able to choose. And the second thing you said, that there are some who already visited the site. That's interesting too, that you as a guide, you need to remember that if you've got a group who already visited the site, there's no way to lead them through the same ways, and there is a lot of possibilities to show a memory site from different perspectives. And the fact that you said that there's a teacher who's telling you, like, very, very openly, we want this and that, I think it might help you as a guide, I suppose.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It's also important for me to see if the students go on with it, because there's sometimes when the teacher said, we would like to have this and this, but I read this, I read that. Could we, if they're vocal about what they also want? So we of course have to get every interest in. Of course, in Mauthausen, it's very important that you see some spots. So you cannot visit without seeing the quarry. Yeah, with the death stairs. You can. It's something like you have to. It's something. This is why Mauthausen became a concentration camp site. Why they got the concentration camp, because of the granite there. So this is really, really crucial, of course, to see this. And there are other spots. So it's not that they just can say, okay, we just walk this way. And thank you very much.
The easy way.
So certain things they can decide, and we invite them, and we want to encourage them to take part and to say, yeah, rather this or rather that. But some things, they're just really important just to understand. Also the bystanders, because in Austria for a long time it was that one concentration camp in Upper Austria, and that's it. So there were no other concentration camps. There were no as if there were not 40 sub-camps, right? So this is one spot somewhere on the hillside. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So in order to understand that this was more, and that there is a surrounding that was involved, and also involved in the question that really, really is important for our work, to say, how could this happen right in the middle of society? You have to see how close the farms are, because in the beginning, students say, oh, this is really remote. And then once you start walking, they understand it's not remote. And that people came up to see soccer games on Sunday afternoon without being forced to do this. So that there is a society around it that was also involved in the concentration camp, that saw what happened, and that wasn't only in Upper Austria the case. And that is, I think, also something really important, not to say this is isolated, somewhere.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Thanks a lot. And you also mentioned, like, I know we can call it the stop rule. So the students, they can stop if there's something which is too much for them. I think it's very important at the beginning that they just can tell that it is too much, and they need to stop. They need a break. They can decide whether like entering very fragile.
There's this shower room in Mauthausen, and of course, once we talk about showers, that students connected with the gas chamber and with not it never was a gas chamber. And then, you know, and some say, oh, I don't want to even see this.
Yeah.
Majority walks in and has a look around and sees it. And then you also see that there are windows. And you can say, okay, if you have a peek look into the former gas chamber, you can see the difference. There are windows, there weren't. So to understand how different places worked in the system of the concentration camp.
Yes.
And there we have a lot of graffitis on the walls. And this is really interesting with the questions they ask, whether the graffitis are from the prisoners. And I said, no, this is from visitors. Yeah, so they did not have chances to do the graffitis there. But this is a question that very often comes from students because maybe they want it that these are messages from back then. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting question. Christine, do you want to comment on that?
No, yes, I want. I think it's really important what Evelyn says, that students have the choice to see things or not and sites or not. And sometimes when I do it on my own, I explain everything about the building or what happened inside, outside, and then I give them the chance to go through on their own way. And what I think it's important that I'm always there, so they can ask questions or they can ask questions to the guides. But sometimes it's easier for them if they can go some ways on their own and take a look at the site and at the explanations and at everything. That's the same way in the museum. I'm always there if they have any questions, but for them it's important to have time on their own to see and to reflect what they experienced there. So that's really important for me. And the same, what Evelyn said, if somebody doesn't want to get in, for example, or doesn't want to see everything, so it's okay if he just steps aside and says, I wait for you, and we'll pick you up afterwards. It's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I think is really important in this way.
Yeah.
And also to show the surroundings of the camp. So if we usually we for example we go there by bus, so we have also the road to the camp, which is where buildings are from the former SS, and we show them out. And here was, for example, here were the train stopped here, and here were some buildings for the SS, and here were this or that, and not only the concentration camp, only the site. In Dachau, it's very close to the city, so that they really understand that there were so many people who knew what happened, but didn't do anything. That's often the questions: what was the role of the normal people?
No.
And I think that this question comes up when they are aware of their surroundings.
Mm-hmm. I also, may I add, yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to make them understand that they can ask questions and that they also can ask questions outside the different stops we do on tours. So I always encourage them in the beginning, and I always tell the teachers, we are not giving marks for questions. So any question is, all right. And maybe there are no answers for it. Maybe there are answers for it. And of course, so this is something really I encourage. And some students also don't want to ask before the auditorium, before the group. So they come and ask right when we walk from one stop to the next. So I think that is really, really important, and that they feel free to ask and feel secure also to ask. And also that we ask them, it's not only one way. So we ask them questions, and because we want to communicate, and it's, I think, always more, it fills it with more life when I ask them. And then, of course, when we talk about the soccer ground, for example, and we discuss who played soccer at the concentration camp, how could this be, who watched, who played, until when. And so to talk about this, and then also see that the ward where all the inmates were kept who were sick, the sick ward, and then you talk about Anne Frank and and Peter van Pels, who was, of course, the son of the other family and who died unfortunately in Mauthausen, and how close this all is. So, and then to encourage them to ask questions, but also to ask them how could this be possible that all these, the sick ward and the soccer ground were next to each other. Yeah, so this is just to get ideas out of their young minds. Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned the soccer and graffitis, and I wanted to ask what are the most frequently asked questions during such a visit? Are they asking mostly about the daily life in the camp? You mean like the stuff which might be might have any reference to their lives?
Well, it's daily actually, yeah. And the former soccer ground became cemetery, was the American cemetery. And then they asked, are there still corpses in there? And then we have a cemetery at the memorial. And then I always tell them, no, there are no more in here. And those remained in Mauthausen are in a different spot. And we later on visit that, so they can see also the cemetery. One of the most asked questions are about breakout attempts. How many were they successful? How often did people succeed in just fleeing? And also about suicides. And then you can discuss, of course, the official death reasons the Nazis wrote down and what really happened. So they ask about the suicides, because of course when they see the when they see the walls and then the electric fence, it's always a discussion, or very often the question comes up. But the most often asked question is the breakout attempts.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes they are curious about details, perhaps you never thought before. For example, if we are in the crematory, there are some nails in the walls, I don't know, and what were they for? What was the use of this? What was the use of that? So they are interested in, and I can add to Evelyn, yes, it's always when we are walking, there are many interesting questions, and there are nice talks, because then students often come that don't participate too much usually, and they pose their questions, and that's really interesting. And I like this walking around, and when they are coming and you are talking to them, it's really interesting talks we have.
Oh, there's one question that often comes. They ask whether Hitler was ever visited Mauthausen. Or high-ranking Nazis, and then I tell them he was never there, but there's St. Valentin where they had the biggest tank factory, and that he visited, which was also a sub-camp of Mauthausen, so there he visited, but in Mauthausen it was Speer and Himmler and other high-ranking Nazis, but never. So that is a question that often, particularly if we take the route via the SS part, via the garage yard where the greeting happened, then this question often comes up.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And that's interesting that what you talk about the walking and talking, and actually it really encourages like the individual approach, because the student may be there, they feel insecure to ask within the group, because the students, they move within the groups, and actually they might be really, I don't know, it might be really an obstacle if you've got a group and you've got one student which is really moved and want to dig deeper, and the others, they are not very into the topic. And and the everything which is going inside the group is also interesting. I just wanted to tell a story because my husband told me when I was preparing for this discussion. He said that they visited the former Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, and he was from the town which is like 2 hours bus drive from Oświęcim. And he said that when they were coming back to Rzeszów, they were just telling jokes for 2 hours like only just telling jokes and just to to release this tension after the visit, to use this time when you spend in the bus going there, it's also counts as
Yes.
part of the visit, I would say, because and the time when you're getting back, you want them to be serious, but they just sometimes they just
Yes, they need this time.
yeah.
It's just talking about something else, and often questions come up afterwards. So the lesson after the history lesson, when we meet after the visit, for example, then there are questions. But sometimes directly after the visit, they want to stop and talk about other things.
Yeah, I learned that it's really important to give the space then, just to say, okay, when we finish the tour, and then we walk out of the site, and I always like do the last round talking, like the last question, because of course sometimes it's you have school classes where part of the students have been to the memorial site before, particularly when they're older, and sometimes it's very rare that none has been to them. It's always with the younger ones, with 15-year-olds, that it's very rare that one of them was already there. But so I always ask also those members of the groups who have been before to Mauthausen, if they remember something and I don't mention it, that they say, oh, can you please? Yeah, like to, why don't you tell us? So if I always encourage them in the beginning, and in the end I always try, or I always do, have the last round of reflection outside. So we walk out, and there's if the weather is good, we go into the green grass outside and stand there, and or we go in the visitors center and have their last round of reflection. And I think it's important to do the reflection outside and not on the site. I think that's really important, because that's the first step of them going back into their regular life. And so I think this is really crucial also, not to do this after they have been in the memorial rooms and just had a peek look into the former gas chamber. I think it's important to make that step and have this reflection with them outside.
Actually, we've got one question from chat too. Have you ever had to deal with some parents who would be against a visit? Maybe it's for you, Christine.
Depends, yes. Sometimes if a child is very sensible and they say, I don't want that he joins the group to go to the concentration camp. Yes, if the parents don't want, we let him go and he joins another class during this school day. For other reasons, I never had any student. I don't remember. And even in my class, I don't remember any student who didn't want to go. Yes, because usually students are really interested and eager to go there, because that's something that really strikes them, and they are very curious and interested in, and that's why usually we have the whole group with us.
Yeah, it was also my question about their motivation. Was there motivation for going? Is it like you said that they're just curious about this part of history? Do you see like another motivation?
Yes, there is still a fascination for students about the whole subject. This is one of during my history lessons, it's one of the themes when students are always with me, and they are asking so many questions about what happened during this time. I never have with any other history topic like Nationalsocialism. So it's really the most the topic they are most interested in. That's also interesting for me, because sometimes I think, I don't know, they are so young, perhaps they are through with this, but they aren't. And now with the current situation, political situation, even the older ones, they are interested in another way. So how could this happen? Are there any parallels between our life and perhaps what happened before Hitler came to power. So that's also interesting, but it's more or less the older ones, the younger ones, and they are always interested in, even if they are 12, 13 years old, they ask questions during my German literature lesson, and they come up and say, hey, couldn't you explain something about Hitler and what happened there and what happened in the concentration camps? That's really interesting for me because it's always like that.
I think the motivate in my knowledge, the motivation really is of the students is connected with the preparation. If they are not prepared in any way, their motivation is nil. So I think this is really crucial to prepare them to know that they know where they're going. They know the basics, that because we cannot start at them in these 2 hours. We cannot start with tell them what National Socialism was and how the Anschluss happened in Austria in 38. Nothing we can do. So we are really we depend on prepared classes, and we, of course, they can take. They are more. It's freeing themselves in walking the grounds and being present there if they are prepared. If they know where they are, they can completely go differently on the side because they have ideas and they know and they heard about this before, and they are not, the overwhelming moment is smaller if they know where they are. And we start with 14-year-olds and so that's the earliest time. 14, very seldom it's 13, but it's more 14-year-olds that come. And of course, it's also with Mauthausen that it was such an international camp. So in the memorial, we have this monument park with many different memorials, a huge one from Poland, of course, because there's so many Polish prisoners in Mauthausen, but also from other countries. And there's very little, there are only few which are not, or were not built by countries. States. So very often they can connect if they don't have an Austrian background, like from the last 10 generations in the family. They often ask, were there Albanian, for example, Albanian prisoners, or they say, oh, were there Turkish prisoners? We can say, yeah, there were. And there were Yugoslav prisoners, and there were Ukraine prisoners, and there were prisoners from Belarus and from other countries. So this is really important also that they can, for those who are closer to the origins of their families outside Austria. So this is something also where they can connect, and which I think is helpful to get, with their own history, or that they say, okay, with students who have like a refugee background, they say, oh, they come from a war zone and they don't want to see this and they don't want to see that. This is also something you have to acknowledge. So to see the backgrounds where they come from is, of course, also helpful within the visit. And and of course, with the preparations, we try we have different projects to help also, or to say, okay, how can we make it easier for school classes that they can prepare themselves and have a different experience during their visit, and also give some help to the teachers. And with that one project, the Life Journeys Leading to Mauthausen, this is one attempt. We
yeah, maybe I'll show, because we've got only a few minutes left for discussion. I'll just Can you see Life Journeys?
Yes, we have 20 biographies, and we work together with young artists who worked with the pictures. This is, for example, Michael Horvath, who was a Rom from Burgenland, from eastern part of Austria, and he was very young when he was in Dachau, and then he came from Dachau to Mauthausen, and he survived. And so Michael Horvath is one of the biographies we talk. So we have Rom biographies, we have Jewish biographies, we have political opponents. This is also from perpetrators, from SS, members of the SS, and from guards, and from people from the area. So this is very different, and we work on a level for 14-year-olds. So also we have this project now in German and in English, and it's in English in the way that you can also understand it without being a native speaker. That was also very important. And we have, it's filled with questions that the students can work on. We have a handout for teachers, how we suggest it's within the educational project materials. So this is something we'd like to hand out and to give, and we understand that it's quite helpful because they work in small groups with each other during the visit and also afterwards. And we prepared them with questions, and of course to ask further questions. There's the quarry. This is the story of Trauner, who was also involved in working in the quarries in Gusen. And yeah, so it's not only SS, but like also different people who were involved in it. Yeah, so this is a project we really, really like and hope that it will help a lot of people. And there's also Stanislav Greszczuk, who was also who wrote a fantastic book on his experiences as a prisoner and who was from Warsaw. And as far as I know, there's a street called after him in Warsaw, which is
yes, it is. He's very well
yeah.
known.
So his story,
monument and so on.
Yeah, his story is part of that project. Yeah.
I'm trying to show it, but maybe I'll just post it on the chat. Actually, I think the Grzesiuk history.
It's not the complete booklet. We have these 20 booklets, and it's not the complete one. I just took out some.
Yeah.
We want, of course, not doing the double thing with drawings and the story, but of course the drawings should make it easier for students who are not like really into reading a lot. So support this. And
I'll just post on chat in the second part of the webinar. I'll post on chat the link to the website, Life Journeys Leading to Mauthausen. And I think that even the form of this website, you just can send a link to the students and ask them to choose one. You know, that there's, if you open it, there's like a lot going on, and they can choose the story. And I think that like just speaking through this kind of comic, it's not a comic, it's a graphic novel, sorry, like the drawings, it might be a very good way to tackle.
There is a poster, you know, we work with we have this poster, and we encourage that they decide within the school classes which group, within small groups, that they decide for this and that biography and start out with this. So the drawings they are most drawn to should help to get into the biographies. Yeah.
Christine, Evelyn, thank you very much. It was very inspiring. The subject was very difficult, but still you made it very meaningful. And I suppose that it really helps a lot to go through the visit. And thank you very much. Do you want to add something on the end, or?
No, thank you. I really appreciate the materials that Evelyn sent, and I think it's really important if you have some biographies. It's really for the students. It's easier to get into the topic, and I looked at it this afternoon, and I was really impressed. And so I recommend to take a look at it, even if you go to Mauthausen. Perhaps there is something similar to a concentration camp nearby, and usually they all have websites where you find some material. So it's really very good, I think. Yes.
Thank you, Christina. Now we thought, because the numbers are overwhelming, and when you say like 200,000 or 180,000 inmates and 50%, like 90,000 died, this is so overwhelming. So when you have biographies, then
yes,
yeah. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'll give the floor to Alika, and you just, Christine, Evelyn, you just turn into the listening mode for the next 30 minutes. And so Alika will speak very briefly about the Sound in the Silence project, and you are really very much invited to participate and to take part in the registration for the program. If you're not a teacher, but you're employee of the memory site. There were a lot of them at the registration form. We just asking you to maybe to pass the information to tell the teachers you are working with that there is such a program who might be interesting for the students. Yeah, so now I'll give just the 10 minutes for Alika, and then for Dan, who's one of the artists working on the project.
Okay, thank you, Ola, for introducing me. I prepared also a little presentation about this. So, Sound in the Silence is actually a program, an interdisciplinary and educational program that we organized since 2011. And we organize it in memory sites connected to the European 20th century history. The reason why we have been invited by Ola to this webinar is actually the fact that we are opening the call for applications for this program for our 2024 edition in Romania, which is going to take place from 5th to 13th of October in Bucharest and in Pitești. So let me shortly tell you what the project is about. We also have, just a second. We have, we offer the classes, the secondary school, just like secondary school classes, 8 to 9 days sojourn in the memorial sites connected to the history. They spend, well, they're usually those are groups of 4 schools. And the first part of the project is dedicated to the history education. So students and teachers participate in history workshops and lectures. They visit museums and also meet history witnesses. In the second part of the project, the students have to opt for one of artistic workshops offered to them by professional artists. They can opt either for rap or creative writing, or choreography and movement, or sound and musicality. And since that time, they start working with professional artists, preparing just a final performance, which is open for the public afterwards. During this time, the teachers who came with the group also have workshops. Usually those are about non-educational or non-formal education elements that they can use during their classes. So until now, we have had workshops, for example, about the use and how to employ just a graphic novel in the lessons, or about ethnic minorities. And since we have been speaking a lot about emotions during this meeting, we also know about this, and hence there is an educator accompanying us for all the duration of the program, who is responsible for integration and group dynamics. And she is also a partner for any kind of emotional problems, being overwhelmed, and she offers always the space to talk for her student, for the students who participate. The benefits for the students are, of course, learning history of different European states, new skills, the ability to work with own emotions to create something new, and of course, possibility to discuss history of other European states with their friends from groups. The program is free. We pay for the hotel, for the transportation, 3 meals a day, plus snacks, all the visits, all the workshops, also workshops for teachers. And we also partly reimburse the transportation costs from your home to the memory site and back. So we start the application on 11th of March. You can see where it's going to be on our website, which is at the moment written on the screen. And we are looking for teachers from secondary schools, history, civic education, ethic, arts, English, and also national languages, any kind of humanities, as long as you as a teacher are interested in on-site education, in history, and in visiting memory sites. So we make the assessment for those applications like in mid-May. We are going to select four teachers that are going to come with us to Romania, and those teachers afterwards they have to find 7 students from their schools who are going to come with them. The students must be between 15 and 18, and they have to have a good command of English, at least at level B2. And of course, we would like them to be interested in history and open for arts. They don't have to have any previous experience with arts. So this is it from my side. We are looking forward to your applications. We would be very happy if you would apply. And if you have any questions before you receive the email from us with all the information that was just like talked about over here, you can contact me at the email address on the screen. And I'm now passing the floor to the author and the artistic director of the program of Sound in Silence, to Dan Wolf, who is going to tell you more about the history of the project and about the teaching methods used in it. So thank you very much. And like I said, looking forward.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Wolf. I'm going to share my screen really quick. 1 second. I am, as Alika said, the artistic director and creator of the Sound in the Silence project. Before I came together for this work, I am in my own practice. I am a musician, MC in a hip hop group. I'm an actor, I'm an educator, and I am a writer. And as you can tell from my accent, I am sitting right now in California, in Berkeley, California. And probably your main question after I say this is, how does a boy from California end up at Mauthausen making art using the history of National Socialism? In 1999, I was reached out to by this artist here. His name is Jens Huckerrieder. He's an artist from Hamburg. And he told me that my great-grandparents, my great-grandfather and his brother were famous musicians in Hamburg before the Second World War. And they wrote over 600 songs. And one of their songs, called An der Eck steht jong mit 'n Tudelband, on the corner stands a boy with a hoop, which is written in Plattdeutsch, and this is a picture of a boy playing with a Tudelband, which is this game that is all over the world of hitting with a stick. They wrote a song about this boy, and the song became so famous that everybody knew this song. But by 1938, the Nazis had said that the song written by those Jewish brothers were no longer a Jewish song. It now belonged to the German people of Hamburg. And so the artist and the art was separated. This is the song. When I met Jens told me that he wrote the lyrics to the song in the Wohlers Alley, which is an old Jewish neighborhood in Hamburg, and that it was the location of a house that was first a Jewish community center and then became a Jewish home where Jews were collected before they were deported in the 40s. And he wrote the lyrics to the song on the street, and people didn't like it so much. And when they would come out of their house, they would look on the ground and see this song written on the ground and say, oh, I know that song. My grandma taught me that song, or the Jewish. So he started to realize that there's a piece of history that was gone, that was separated from the people. And he started to search, and his searching led to me because I'm the great-grandson of this. So the reason why I tell this story is because the Sound in the Silence project starts from a very personal place. And I heard a lot of conversation about personal narratives and how the students need to find a connection that is bigger than just the numbers, right? The numbers are so overwhelming in this history. And for historians, the numbers are so important. But for people who are looking for a way to make a connection, we need a personal connection. And this history that I just explained to you was my personal connection. So I set out, I wrote a play. And when I was in Ravensbrück in 2006, I started to think about a way that artists and history and location could really start to come together. And so the Sound in the Silence project was born. And I want to give you two structures here, because really what we're doing here in the Sound in the Silence project is we're taking a piece of history and we're taking a piece of ourselves and we're making something new, right? We talked about the first 3 days of the project being about history and learning, and the second part of the project being about articulation and expression. How do we take this history that is, pushing 80 years into the past and is becoming ever more and more distant in the rearview mirror of our young people, and how do we make it important to us? Well, we have to find that personal connection. We have to find a way that the history is meaningful to us. We have to find a deep sense of curiosity so that we are asking questions. So we do want to go up to our teachers or our tour guides in between spots and ask them questions that are really important to us. And also so that we can turn around and tell the world how we think and feel about this history from a present perspective. Because just reiterating what happened already is not enough. We have to connect it to the present day, to contemporary life. Else for the young people, it's never going to mean anything, right? So these thinking frameworks are put in place for us to be able to understand what this history means to us. So the first thinking framework that Sound in the Silence really works with is this idea that Jens taught me, which is new forms of remembrance, right? It's a creative methodology that claims we must use provocative, charged locations to inspire our work in order to give the next generation a chance to understand where they fit into this history. And I want for our historians out there and our tour guides and our memorial sites, I want to say that this process does not replace the kind of firsthand personal accounts or testimonials that we've been working with for so long. It sets to enhance it. It powers a search for connection through a rigorous intellectual and emotional experience. It powers this through a cultural exchange where a German student is meeting a Polish student, or a Hungarian student is meeting a Romanian student on the site, and we're having to navigate our cultural and our personal differences through the lens of history. And it also powers our ability as human beings to express ourselves artistically, which sometimes in a world filled with numbers and dollars and power, art can be a bad word. An expression can be a bad word. It can seem soft in a very hard world. And I'm here to say that this is a very deeply important part of this process. How do we use the arts to articulate and understand the past and history? And how do we use the arts to express our understanding? And new forms of remembrance really challenges us to do that. The other piece that I really like to work with in this project is this idea of post-memory, which is created by Mariana Hirsch, who is Dr. Mariana Hirsch, who is a professor at Columbia in New York City. And she discovered this concept of post-memory after reading Art Spiegelman's graphic novel, Maus. And post-memory describes the relationship that the generations after bear to the personal, collective, and cultural trauma of those who came before, to the experiences that they remember only through stories or pictures or behaviors from which they grew up, right? I grew up amongst a household where my parents were first-generation Americans, where my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. And for me, these stories, these narratives, these traumas were passed down through my blood, through the generations, through discussions, into this place where I almost can feel their experience, even though I wasn't there. So Sound in the Silence really works with this idea of post-memory, this idea of thinking and feeling and our connections to those stories and people who came before us. And puts the responsibility onto us about how we're going to engage with it. Really what I'm talking about in this entire process of Sound in the Silence from a creative and a historical perspective is we're learning rules. We're learning the rules of history. We're learning the rules of art. We're learning the rules of new forms of remembrance and post-memory so that we have a base knowledge so that during the process of Sound in the Silence, we can learn the rules and we can break them like artists, right? Alika said that not many of the students who join us really consider themselves artists before they come into the process. But the idea is to empower you. We are human beings. We are creative. We have a function of creativity and we have a function of destruction. And here we are in a place of destruction, and our job is to be creative. Our job is to bring a sense of renewal to this process, to this thinking, to this history, so it makes sense to us. So we learn the rules that came before us, and then we are empowered as artists to break them, right? Because then the question is, how do we use rap or dance or voice to make these deep connections between the present and the past? We use a 3-part multidisciplinary approach. I call it education, experience, expression, the 3 E's. The education part is, how do we use the mind? How do we learn things, numbers, facts, moments, dates, places? Then how do we go to the place, and how do we experience the place through guided tours and talks with historians and historical workshops? And then how do we express by working with artists so that we really can use the project not only to make something creative or have a cool experience, but to really establish the importance of cross-cultural connection, to begin to motivate this idea of a pursuit of true justice, to build a culture of remembrance amongst young people, and to cultivate empathy amongst the participants, something that in this world that we all live in, empathy is a dying emotion and dying connection. So how do we find ourselves reflected not only in the history of the place, but in the other people and other cultures that we are working with? Some of my favorite times, we started it in 2011 at Neuengamme. This was the first edition with just German and Polish students. The following year, we went to Borna Solinovo, and this is where we became more deeply involved with ENRS. 2013, excuse me, 2 students from Germany and 2 students from Poland came to America, to both San Francisco and to Chicago. 2015, we did our first edition together, really in partnership with ENRS in Gdansk, Poland, which was really a great experience to see how the project could grow. In 2017, which I believe is one of the most important iterations, we went to Ravensbrück, which is near Berlin. And in this place, we really started to develop our concepts around how the history and the art could really work together, and how the location and the support from the education team at the location would create a deep experience, not only for the artists, but for the participants. We were in Warsaw in 2018, which was incredible. It was the first time we were in a city center and working with movements as opposed to locations. And in 2022, we were in Kaunas, and as well as in Mauthausen. And I think that this was a really important experience because it was the first time we came together post-pandemic, and we really started to feel this energy between not only the process of learning history through art, but the relationship between ENRS and the artists and the integration specialists and the locations and the teachers and the students. It just, this year became, I think, in my mind and in my heart, the most powerful of them so far. And as we moved into last year at the House of the Wannsee Conference, and also in Croatia at Jasenovac, we really instilled this power of the team and the way that we work together with the teachers. You have to understand our group is, I'm going to stop my share now. Our group is, quite large when we travel. We have the 28 students. We have the 4 teachers. This is the heart of the project, the young people and the educators who had the foresight to bring these young people into the project. We have 3 artists that we work with, myself and 2 other artists who are really in charge of putting together the performance. We have our amazing team that comes from ENRS, Dagmara and Justina and Alika and many other people, Joanna. We have our documentation team, and we have our integration specialists. So we travel with like, I don't know, 35 people, and not including the location staff and the historians and the educators at the place. And without this powerful group, this project cannot exist, because it really takes every single circle in this group to make this come to fruition. And what happens is these young people find a deep connection to each other, find a personal connection to the history, find a way to speak about these histories beyond just that one-day experience that Christina and Evelyn were speaking about. Because one day, unfortunately, I know we have busy lives, but it's not enough, right? You need to be able to have this pre-education, this preparation that gives you a foundation that allows you to really utilize your time when you're there. And you need reflection time. You need time where you're thinking about what you just learned and what it means to you and what it means to your culture and what it means to your country. And then you need more time to connect with other people and discuss and find ways to express and get all of this crazy thinking and energy and history out of your mind and your body and into the world. Because if we all walk around with it in us, we're just going to be these tight, wound up human beings. And what ends up happening is the result is not only this empowering performance opportunity, but this deep connection between the young people. And you see them leave after 7 days or 8 days, and they feel like they've known each other their entire lives, when 1 week ago, they didn't even meet each other yet. So not only can history in this project be a conduit to understanding the past, but it can also make a deep connection in the present. And hopefully some of these young people will be our future politicians, will be our future leaders, will be our future teachers, will be in charge of the world that we are moving into. And hopefully somewhere in their minds and in their hearts and in their souls, the experience that they have during this week can maybe help them with some big, hard decisions that they have in the future. And maybe I might be as bold as to say that they might help us make this world a little bit less violent and crazy and angry, and we can come together in some way. So very hard to tell you all of this information in 10 minutes. So the best thing for you to do is to sign up for the trip and come and be a part of it so that you can experience. So thank you for listening, and I'm sure there are questions.
Dan, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. It was very inspiring, and it really gives the idea, only an idea how it will look like. If you've got any questions, please we've got like 5 more minutes. I feel like a most boring person now asking you to fill the survey after this webinar, but I'll do it, posting it on chat. Please do it because we need that, because it's our founder. And maybe, maybe do you've got any questions? We were waiting for them.
Ursula, could I ask you to put on the material in the chat? That would be super.
Yes, I just sent the link to the website.
Yes. Oh, super.
Yeah, I did it. And I think that the attachments I just can mail them to all the participants after the webinar. We also have so I'll mail you teaching resources from Evelyn, and we've got also a short movie about the Sound of the Silence editions in the previous year. So I'll do that. Okay, actually I see some questions.
Thank you so much.
Is it possible from students and teachers from Serbia to participate? Alika, I think that we speak EU. or I don't know, for sound in the silence? Could you clarify? I cannot hear. You need to unmute. You're muted.
Okay, no. At the moment, we don't have any limits on
Yeah.
participation. It can also be, these can also be teachers from outside the European Union.
Yeah. We've got a comment that the virtual experience is amazing. I understand that you speak about the memorial sites. Have any of you heard of Jane Heining of Budapest? Questions, and Evelyn, you answered to one of the questions, because there was a question about how to work in the memorial site with the younger students, and you can check the Evelyn's answer in the Q&A section. Okay, I didn't tell you because I thought it's visible on the webinar that we've got 80 people participating in the webinar. So we're very happy about it that you joined. And actually, I think we'll be finishing shortly. And if you've got any questions, you can always ask us through email. And Evelyn and Christine, thank you very much for the really inspiring discussion. I'm
Thank
sure
you so
that
much.
it will be useful for our participants.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And
Thank you.
for the discussion we had, Christine, it was really, really inspiring to be
Yeah.
part and to learn also about the project you do so intensely. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Alika, Dan, thanks a lot. Thank you very much for presenting Sound in the Silence. I think that it's a great opportunity, and we really encourage all of you to trying out this project. And yes, and I just wish you a very calm afternoon after the long day. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.